Hello, hello, everybody. Here we are again, live on Broadcast Team Alpha, on YouTube, 3 TV stations, and a bunch of other places that we're out there. And we are here again for some cutting edge conversations and discussing quantum possibilities. My name is Agi, and I'm one of the hosts, and my co-host Nori cannot be here today, but she promised she will be here next week, so we will be looking forward to that. We have a phenomenal guest with us. And but first, I want to tell you how you connect with us also. You will find us on broadcastteamalpha.com. And we are on YouTube with the same name, Broadcast Team Alpha. And while you are there, just go ahead and look down into the shows that we have for the last several years, and you'll find a lot of stuff down there that you're not supposed to know about. So have a look. There are radio shows, there are shows, and there are some videos that can make your life easier and better for you. So also, while you are on YouTube, please subscribe and check the bell next to it, because then you will be notified when the next shows are coming out, and you're going to want to, because there's some good stuff coming. And also, if you like what you hear, please support us on Super Chat. It is just like Christmas Day if we get one of those coming in. So that just feels really good. And it tells us that we are doing the right thing. And now I want to tell you a little bit about our guest. She sent me her bio, but I have paraphrased because there was so much on it that I'll be reading for 20 minutes, and we just can't do that. So anyway, this will be interesting because it is rare to find someone certified in so many different areas of the healing arts. She is the owner and the founder of Bay Area Meditation Center, and that's a San Francisco-based company that also does meditation for corporate America. And believe it or not, corporations are getting in the game with us on some of these meditation, and they are starting to grow a little bit. It's been a long coming. You know, in Japan, they are actually teaching in many schools now for kids. They're teaching them meditation. So Geraldine is on the front end of that one. She is also a hypnotherapist, a neuro-linguistic practitioner. That's N.L.P. Normally it's called. She also does mindfulness stress reduction therapy. That's a long term, but I tell you, America need that one really bad. She's also a Qigong Master and certified in quantum energy healing and pranic healing. Those are two terms that is not very common, but we'll talk about that a little bit. And then, about 9 years ago, she had a life-changing interdimensional experience, which resulted in the activation of tremendous psychic abilities. Since then, she's had hypnotic regression and found she had a lifetime-long alien interdimensional contact history. And I'm using the word alien in there because if it isn't from Earth, it's alien. So technically, God is an alien. I don't think he's on Earth necessarily, the way church look at it. And then, yeah, we want to hear about this. There is also a reason why she founded hybridmother.com. And you will find Geraldine Orozco at geraldineorozco.com. And now I've stumbled myself through all of that, so I'll introduce Geraldine Orozco. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Augie. Thank you so much for going through that very long bio. Sorry about that. And thank you. I'm very happy to be
Oh,
here.
yeah, it's this is going to be fun. I've been looking forward to this because I have seen you on conferences and other shows, and both you're everywhere out there being interviewed and doing presentations. And there are times when I find myself short on time, but if I end up seeing a little bit of what you talk about, I get stuck. I just can't leave. And I hope that's going to happen this time also, because it is so interesting to talk to you.
Thank
Let
you.
me ask
Thank
you
you. It's an
first,
honor to be here.
how in the world did it start for you? Why did you step out of the box, go this direction instead of staying in the business world and becoming wealthy like most Americans dream of?
Yeah, it's kind of like the process of our evolution. As we're moving and we're evolving, we get to points of friction in life, right? Stressing moments that cause major events that can cause major questions. And for me, the original question, having a startup company, I moved from the corporate world into my own entrepreneurship. I was partnered with someone and they passed away from one day to the next. And my question was, just during that time, that event happened, and it kind of spiraled into a lot of questions about why do these things happen? If everything is, you're doing everything that you think you're supposed to be doing by this world cookie cutter life, that things don't go the way that they say it's supposed to go, right? You have the whole beautiful house, the education, the family, the friends, the work, the career, the dreams that that the system is very much prone to advertising for success, but yet in that space you won't find joy, happiness, or any kind of fulfillment. And that's where I found myself in 2019 and in 2009. So this is where it began my journey into meditation and trying to find a place to remove myself from the hectic life into a moment of silence to discover what was the answer to that. And it took many years. That was the beginning of that. I funded Bay Area meditation, really just out of the feeling that meditation was working for me in such a powerful way. It was affecting the money I was making. It was affecting my relationships. It was changing my life in a very beneficial way. And I learned tools and techniques to begin to affect my reality by learning to master my mind, right? And through mindfulness. So that's kind of how I began to work into that. But my real deep work kind of began 5 years after that, when I really began to meditate really, really seriously, about 3, 4, and then it went up to about 9 hours a day after a lot of different very awakening events. Because what happens in meditation, you can do many kinds of techniques of meditation, and I have studied many kinds, tried many kinds, everything from Vipassana to TI to all kinds of different modalities. But what I began to realize, that in that silence, so much kept coming up that I wasn't sure what to do with the stuff that kept coming up. And I needed, at some point, all of these different modalities kind of fell short in how to resolve this tremendous thing, because clearly, as an evolutionary human, we have to address these things. Yeah. So I began to dive deep into them and began to work with that information and deprogram myself. I realized that I was a product of major programming through father, mother side, society, culture, religion. And who Geraldine was really, in reality, none of those things. And that's where the friction was occurring in all these points in my life, where I thought I was doing what was supposed to be done, and yet not finding that fulfillment, that truth. So that's kind of where things began to shift. And through very profound deprogramming, I began to go deeper into ancestral work. I began to follow emotional patterns, cyclical traumas, and clearing that up all the way back down my ancestral lineages. And all of this discovery was years of Well, mostly between two major years, 2012 and 2013. And at the end of 2013, in October, is where I had that major breakthrough, where I had a conscious contact experience. And I believe that it's a result of the heavy deprogramming that I was doing, which raised my vibration to a certain point where I was no longer sleeping, unconscious in dream time, unconscious in the higher states in which these kinds of experiences occur. And we are not talking about just dream time. This is not just an altered state. This is a physical experience with these beings, right? These interdimensional beings. So that's where my reality.
That breakthrough that you are talking about, that is when you made contact beyond the barrier into that interdimensional reality then. And there was someone there. Can we say someone that you communicated with instead of something?
Yes, you can say someone. I guess it goes deep into like the idea of having to put something into a personality or to define it. It's very difficult to define these beings. They're interdimensional. It's interdimensional consciousness. And really the truth about this is that, you know, they are pulling from a collective memory of what these beings are programmed within our collective memory of our human race. So, you know, I tapped into that by going into those dimensions and projected from that memory are these beings in the way that they look, in the way that they present themselves with the technology that they have and with the information and agendas that they're carrying out. So I think at that point, I reached the barriers of destroying all of the programs that I had of society, of religion, of culture. And that's where kind of it took me to the next step of what's beyond that, what's beyond the human understanding of consciousness. And it was this kind of consciousness. So in this experience, I was taken into a craft with these 6 beings, magnificent, quite tall, huge gray eye beings. And they introduced me to this incredible advanced technology, this interdimensional vibrational craft. And my aunt was actually on the craft as well, the same evening as I was. Yes. And I saw her there. And when I tried to speak and say something, you know, I was paralyzed. I couldn't speak. I could not. I wasn't in control of my body all the way. So they took her into another room, and they went into another room with me where they introduced me to a lot of information through a holographic prism that had 8 levels. And every single one of those levels had information pertinent to myself and my history. They took me to the Pleiades. They showed me this kind of alien language, which at the time I did not understand, but it moved so quickly that I realized that when I just stay still and kind of observe it as a collective, you began to get images. So it was kind of like a telepathic reading of some sort of information.
That alien language, was that a written language also, or was it just in understanding or concepts of understanding or visual?
It was a visual written language, and it was shapes and symbols and forms. But I think that the visual aspect of that is just translated into something that maybe we can understand. It's really vibrational language. It's really something that's telepathic. You know, once you stop focusing and trying to identify the shapes, you begin to get images, which are very large concepts that are inclusive of the whole. And, you know, they speak in infinities, they speak in universes is the best way that I can explain it to you, because somehow each symbol, each dot includes information about everything from a different perspective in order to create a thought form. And so it was something that was completely new to me. You know, I had never heard or thought of anything like this before. So it was hard to understand what that was about until later on, where I understood what they were trying to tell me, which is information that I tuned into later. So in addition to that information, the most impactful is the part where they introduced me to children that they introduced as my own. And I recognize these children. They look like me. They they had their energy was like mine, they moved like mine. I just knew that they were from my body. And it was very interesting because the connection with them was telepathic. And my immediate question was trying to understand how to fit that into my reality, which I thought I was so very conscious of in my earth life, right? So this is where I began to realize that we are operating on many dimensional planes that we're yet not aware of. And, it was very difficult to kind of integrate that. It took some time because there were so many questions. What was the hybridization program? Who's running it? What are we? What makes us special, if at all, for this program? What role do we play? Along with other things. But in addition to this information, they also showed me what the matrix was, what reality consists of, what does it look like, by looking down at the molecular level of matter. And that's when I began to understand that, we are energy, essentially, and kind of operating on different dimensional planes. Go ahead, Augie.
How close was that to the movie The Matrix?
Well, the funny thing is I watched The Matrix, the first one originally, and literally when I saw what they were showing me, they zoomed into a plant, for example, down to this further than a molecule. And what was there was geometry, numbers, and vibrational frequency, essentially. So it is very similar to what the Matrix is saying. It's like this network of data, right? And it is very much similar to that. There are many different intricacies to that we can talk about that are much more organic in a sense, but it's very much like that. That film is phenomenal. Whoever came up with that definitely has seen things, I'm very sure.
Then you also then was introduced to children that they said were your own.
That's right, yes.
So you have been part of a hibernation program then.
Hybridization, that's correct, yes.
Yeah. How did it feel when you saw the children and then was told that these are your own children? How did that feel?
Yeah, so it was very shocking for me, and it took a moment because I have never wanted children here on earth. I've never had like the dream of like, oh, I really want to be a mother. I really want to have children, because I see so many children that don't have families. I think it would be more important to have them as foster children or something. So I never had the fantasy. So when I saw the child, it was shocking. And my first question was, how am I going to merge my terrestrial life and still be responsible, or am I accountable, or how am I going to care for these children? It was that motherly instinct that kind of came in. And it was very natural to feel that. And it was incredibly powerful. And it was a feeling of love for something that you've never met before, but knowing that it's a part of you, it is yours. And I think that that's the feeling that parents have when they see their child, when they think of what to do with them or how to take care of them. So I realized for the first time how that maternal instinct is definitely a part of us. And the question was, what is the purpose of the hybrids? What is my role? Is my role done with them? At that point. And so that's something that we can talk about in a minute, because it took me on a kind of like a rabbit hole of understanding what the hybridization program was about. But when I returned, yes.
How much different were they in appearance from, let's say, the we look? Were they more, the eyes were longer, or were there differences in appearance that was obvious?
Yes, so the children are definitely mixed genetically, and from 8 different lights, souls that they were showing me that were a product of this particular hybridization program, 4 of them manifested into a physical form. So I was able to see what they looked like, what they felt like, and I interacted with them. And all of them except one of them, which was more of a reptilian mix, you can say. Literally, it had kind of like a grayish green skin, and the eyes were incredible, something that you would never imagine. It was the pupil that looked like a slit, but it was a very complex combination of eye pigmentation. It was purples, yellows, greens. And the other children were more, let's say, humanoid, but their skull was much larger than their body. And it was more pointy, it was more minimal. They had very, very large eyes. Their pupils are the size of our ocular socket. You can imagine like this whole space would be their pupil. And the pupil is in these incredible bright greens that we don't have here on Earth. There really is no one, I've looked, just pigmentation that's phenomenal. So you can tell their structures of the body are more frail, more thin. The skin is thinner, more delicate, paler. And their hair is not like human hair. It's not like a fiber type of hair. It's like almost, I want to say, like a gelatinous noodle type of hair. Okay, if you can imagine what that looks like. It's a very strange substance, but it's very soft. So it's just a different construction, different architecture to the body. But you can tell that they are a mixture of genetics. They are a mixture of humanoid and other races, which I have met as well, and after meeting the grays that were there, I could see where the humanoid would cross with this kind of gray species in the child, so it was very interesting to see that. Yeah.
So this experience was probably the cause for the organization you created that is called Hybrid Mother.
That's correct. That's correct. I wanted to research. I wanted to understand what the hybridization program was about. And the first couple of years after I returned back from that experience, I came back 3 hours later. I was at the edge of my bed. I had dirty feet, like literally as if I had gone outside. And more importantly, my body was hurting, and I had psychic abilities that developed. On the Monday, when I went back to my office to teach meditation, I was able to see the entire multidimensional body of the person, and I could feel and see everything that they were speaking. So that took about 3-4 months to adjust to, because I couldn't leave my house. It was just very incredibly sensitive to everything, as a result of that experience. So to me, that was my proof that what I had experienced was not something I dream about or something that, some interdimensional. It was very much a physical thing. I wasn't in my bed. I walked out of my bed. I went to the window, and my window was on the other side, and I was removed from the window into this craft, So it was a very vivid thing. And I just couldn't place it, though. I was thinking about calling the police. I was thinking about calling the hospital, because I didn't know who to talk to or to ask for support about something like this, But years later, after that, I was in a partnership which wasn't necessarily open to going deeply into that. And I also had a career as an event planner. I had my own event planning company. So I was afraid to go public with this or share, and then have my name maybe, something smeared, or something would happen with my reputation. So I didn't talk about it.
I know that feeling.
Yes. So it's like you live 2 lives, and it can be very taxing, as you might know, to try to be genuine in your everyday career, but have this other completely important side of you that you really can't ignore. And I think at the end in 2016, I finally decided that I needed to address this part of me. It just wasn't something that was going to go away. So I parted ways with the partner. I sold my business, and I decided to research deeper. And I found hypnotherapy. I was working with the hypnotherapist, Alba Weinman. And I went really deep into trying to understand what my experience was about, and realizing that the events of my miscarriages and anomalous pregnancies throughout my life had a direct correlation to these children. And that's where things started to get really serious. I already had a feeling, because I started to remember I had many pregnancies that were not partnered, I had pregnancies when I wasn't partnered, and I had these strange experiences, and I was like, now I understand that this resulted in something different.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you, I see some similarities between you and my co-host Nori. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
something that you guys need to talk about sometime, because gosh, I tell you, what you are talking about right now, there are other people
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
even listening to this show, and they've had experiences like that, and they're talking to themselves saying, self, how can I talk about this to anybody without being called an idiot or a crazy person? But they need to get in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I created this support group, because, I noticed that there was resistance at the gynecologist, at the doctor's office, even at the psychologist, psychotherapist. Everyone was very nervous to have the conversation about this kind of experiences. And it's understandable, because for myself in the beginning, it was also incredibly, disassociating. You can't mix the two. Until you understand what's happening. And so that's where hypnotherapy definitely assisted. I became a hypnotherapist as a result of that, in order to not only provide support for other women and men, because I started to come across women and men, remember, men are also part of this, that were part of the hybridization program, and it kept happening in the same process. They were having experiences at an early age, at the age of 5, and then having other experiences later on where they were a part of these experiences where they're either on a table, on a slab, they are surrounded by these presences, and there are some experiments or medical procedures occurring, and some of these women are becoming pregnant and then having their the fetus removed out of their uterus, essentially, and they end up experiencing a miscarriage but without the fetus, and that's what makes these experiences unique. And for the men, they have these very powerful experiences where they encounter sexual intercourse or some kind of experience where they are being experimented on, and they become very traumatized. And what makes these experiences different than just dreams is that these are people that do end up with PTSD a lot of times, because they're incapable of integrating this non-physical experience or physical experience with their everyday reality. So it's definitely something that we need to understand and help people understand what reality is, because reality is not what we think it is. Reality is not the physical. In fact, we're constantly moving in and out of dimensional planes. And that means, just like people can have ghosts or they can hear their grandmother speaking to them, we are constantly, in fact, navigating. And so what's important for us now from this experience and sharing it is that we educate ourselves on what our multidimensionality is, because I think that it's the key to the future. I think it's the direction in which we're moving in now. And if we don't understand how to do it organically, we have the technological side doing it for us artificially. We have metaverse, for example, and many other things that are trying to implement a kind of artificial reality, right? And so a lot of things in that are very interesting, because they hijack the subconscious mind. And in order for us to be able to navigate consciously, we have to practice awareness and presence in the physical, and then begin to awaken in dream time, in our lucid dreaming, so we can understand the many programs that the majority of the human race is actually participating in and might not be aware of. So there's many things that we can talk about there.
Did they tell you also that your mom probably had the same experience of some form of either abduction or hybridization that you may be the product of?
Absolutely.
Did they tell you that?
Yes, and it's not so much that they told me. What it is that when I began to be public about this experience, that I told my parents about the experience in 2013. And when I shared that with them, they said, oh, we also had experiences. And I said, how can you never talk about this before? What kind of experiences did you have? And my father had experience, my mother's had experiences, and my mother's mother had experiences, and her mother's mother. So then I started to realize, wow, so this is not something too, because I felt crazy, of course, and alone. I began to realize that my entire family had actually had contact.
Yep.
And much to my surprise, when I became public, literally through the documentary Extraordinary the Seeding, that was kind of like, it went from 0 to 100 very quick for me. So when that film came out, my whole family saw the film. And then we started to have conversations. And I discovered that other family members had also had these experiences, not just with ET contact or seeing lights in the sky, but literally having miscarriages, having these visions, having these memories of being on board craft, being on tables, being experimented on, and other things. And my aunt was able to recall the night that she was on board craft with me in 2013. That was the most incredible part of the journey, is to be able to link that many of my family members had been involved. And so it began to uncover a network of consciousness. And I began to piece together and understand what we are. In fact, we are multidimensional organisms that are interconnected. I myself, in my multidimensionality, is connected to my family. And in fact, our ancestral lineage is one organism that is vibrating at a certain vibrational frequency, in which we are kind of cycling a lot of cyclical trauma, terrestrial as well as interdimensional, things that we're, doing in other dimensional planes. So there's a lot of things that are, mixing here. When we're talking about, let's say, karma, and our life experiences, when life becomes difficult, sometimes we're not sure why this is continuing to happen, but it's a result of a lot of cyclical programs that need to be dissolved. Not just in your ancestral lineage, first in yourself, in your lineage, but also you're a vibrational match to things that you're experiencing on other dimensional planes. And that's not to say that we're victims of this at all. In fact, my most powerful message as a result of this experience is to express how much power we are able. In fact, we direct our entire reality, full stop. Our subconscious mind, it's very important to deprogram it quickly from the false matrix, which is all of these programs that we're swimming in right now, in order to really understand what is the real world that we're navigating on. And the unknown is always going to be quite difficult and challenging, because we are designed to be constantly fluidly evolving and moving through many unknown experiences. And that can be very difficult for the human,
I figured that there was, because a lot of times these follow family genetic lines from father to son, mother to daughter, and to, down the road. So I figured there was a contact there to your parents also. Do you still have contact? Do they come and see you now?
Yes, I do still have contact. Absolutely. My vibration has to be at a certain level, but absolutely. Here's the thing, that when you have contact, and I think that I have gone down many, many rabbit holes about consciousness and how we're co-creating. And once you understand that you are the creator of your reality, you begin to manage what you're projecting in a more powerful way. So what I did in my experience is begin to integrate the fragments that were created in these other dimensional planes. See, ET contact and contact with interdimensionality, it's occurring from the 9th to the 12th dimensional plane. And these are literally your body. They are dimensional planes of your body. They make up your organism, is what I call it. So when we are stuck here in the first 3 chakras, we're constantly in survival. We're very much enmeshed in the matrix. When we begin to resolve and reintegrate from those lower levels, you begin to activate the higher levels, the heart, the throat, and the third eye. This is where you begin to navigate non-physical aspects of yourself. Beyond that, and that's what I did in my meditation through deprogramming. Beyond that is the 8th, 9th, 10th, the center of creation, manifestation, and then you go up to the higher levels of manifestation of consciousness. And so we are constantly in dream time navigating these realms. And oftentimes when we are unconscious of our physical body through your everyday life, you are daydreaming, you're hypnotized, this body can become a host to things that attach through the vibrational frequency. So that can cause a problem, because then experiences that you have can be very low, very traumatic. Your perception and the kind of perception and kind of the veil that you're seeing things through are going to be from that level. So when it comes to ET contact, it's very important to understand that as a law of what you're going to be experiencing. Once you clear out the gunky, heavy frequencies, you can choose what you're going to be experiencing. And so I have ended my contractual agreements with and what I mean by end, what is an agreement? What is a contractual? A lot of people talk about that. It's simply an agreement to experience something with another organism. The problem is that oftentimes we are not conscious of that. We're not fully aware of what we're agreeing to because we are in hypnosis. So when we become aware, we can fully understand what this agreement is about. The hybridization program is about the sustainability of an artificial reality. And it is a matrix that we are sustaining through the hybridization program. It is the cyclical life forms that are being embodied into a physical hologram. And the soul is a code of your holographic DNA, which is combined with many different species. There are 24 main species, but there are infinite. I mean, we live in a multiverse. So the majority of the ET contact that humans have here on Earth is usually exploring those 24 species, which is why people see common facades, of these ETs all the time. But beyond that, it loses form and it goes into frequency, vibration, light, sound, so on and so forth. And the sustainability of the matrix can be parasitic if we participate in a manner that's unconscious, but it can also be productive. Because evolution is a natural cycle. We are all evolving, all organisms are evolving, moving, and it's our choice to either participate in the expansion and the wellness of the collective or the counter creation of this organism.
I got a thought. Let me run this thought by you. Let's say that somebody find out that they was abducted by an alien race and they were experimented on skin samples and whatever would happen, and they come back and find out that, wow, they did that to me. That was interference in my free will, but I am not so sure of that. Maybe at one level they actually, outside of the physical, before they even took on this meat suit that we're walking around in, they may have agreed to have the experience for the purpose of their own spiritual growth. Do you think there could be something like that?
Absolutely, Ogi, and I'm so glad that you think that, because a lot of people, we get stuck in victim thought process of these things, and it can be very easy to do so, and it can be very confusing. And I too went through that process in understanding these things. But evolution from that thinking is important for us, and that's true for our everyday life in the things that are occurring in the world right now, and it's true for the things that we're experiencing interdimensionally. In fact, our human body is not just this body. We are an organism, and our organism extends 13-dimensional layers out and even beyond that. Imagine that. Within those 13-dimensional layers is basically the holographic projection of all the things that are encoded inside your DNA. Your DNA, okay, the 24 strands of your DNA. And even beyond that, everything that we qualify as junk DNA is all of the historical record And
Yeah.
I don't want to say historical as in linear timeline. This is a spherical, simultaneously occurring expression. All of this data is inside your holographic DNA. And in that DNA is the part of you that is gray. It's the part of you that is Arcturian, the part of you that is a reptilian, the part of you that is this. When we have these experiences, we are becoming conscious of those parts of us. The things that are occurring in those interactions are being filtered through the human mind, which is incredibly limited, remember, because we are only pulling, and the majority of us, which are still programmed, are pulling from programmed belief systems. So this is what we are using to filter what we're experiencing on these dimensional planes. And that can cause limitations, because if we are very, very stuck in trauma programs, that's what we're going to be seeing and feeling. But in reality, remember that everything has many perceptions. There's many sides to experiences. And so it's the same with ET contact. For one person, this can seem like a violation of their rights or their personal space. But when you look from another direction, it was a bandage that was being put on a wound or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very important. Yeah. It's important to have this kind of understanding, especially when we're navigating things in the unknown, as far as ET contact, like we're talking about today, because this is what we are here as organisms to learn, is to how to navigate the unknown. Yeah.
Oh, this is phenomenally interesting. And now you are writing a book also. Will some of the things that we have talked about here also be in the book where people can find some more information on it?
Absolutely. I go very deep into these little intricacies.
Tell us about that book that you're going to do.
Yes, so it is a 3-part book, actually. So it's going to be 3 books. And the first book is going to focus on the ET contact and understanding the depth of ET contact. The second book is about healing and working with the multidimensional levels of the body. And the third book is primarily about piecing together what the role is of the human organism in the collective role and the super consciousness, basically, that we're a part of. So it's these 3 different ways. My entryway into the subconscious mind and to the multidimensional realm was through ET contact. So I will share about that, and it'll help us understand many things, even our perception of gods, of religions, and what free will is primarily, because free will is something that very few of us understand, but is essential to navigating our everyday lives.
What will be the title of the book when it comes out? First one, or?
The first one is going to be DNA origins and hybridization programs. And the second 2, I haven't decided on the names yet, but the first one will be that, yes.
Is this close enough to where there could be a pre-order on Amazon? I know they do that.
They do, but I'm not quite there yet. Yes, when I do have it, I will let you know. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
When that time comes, I would sure like you to come back again. So,
thank you so much. I would love that. Yes.
Now, also, you are a healer, and you have so many different modalities. The one unique thing that I saw on your bio that I haven't heard you talk about, so you probably have, but I just haven't heard it, and that is DNA reprogramming. Now, that gets really deep in my mind, and the first thing that comes up in that regard is that what about this calamity that is going on around the world now, you know what it's called. Is there possibly something that can be reprogrammed back to what it was before it was altered recently after people did something dumb?
Yeah, I think that, let's see. Let me start in the beginning first, the first question. I don't want to call myself a healer because I'm not a healer. You cannot, I don't believe in the fact that we heal others, because the dynamics and the architecture of actually healing, it consists of two conscious organisms working together. So what I do is I hold space and I educate people on how to heal themselves. And so this is what my
There you
sessions
go.
are about. But DNA reprogramming is precisely working with holographic DNA, holographic system of information, your multidimensionality, everything that is recorded in your body. When I see you, I can see, not you specifically, just in general, I can see where you are holding trauma, the past histories of the trauma, what affected you through mother, father, lineage, what you're holding on to, what you're experiencing right now, and what you need at this moment in order to let go of this and heal and move on as an organism. So in DNA reprogramming, I take the person using hypnotic techniques as well, hypnosis techniques, and meditation into a subconscious level where they're able to follow that emotion down to the root and begin to deprogram from that program that was created. And what happens is that you begin to access the fragments that, because when we experience trauma, literally we fragment timelines. And we keep all of those fragmented timelines, and they become reference points. And so what happens is when we have triggers of that similar trauma, we go back to that reference point and we relive, we pull from that information. The problem is that it's limited because it's based on one perspective, as we were just speaking a minute ago. So the idea is to deprogram the trauma that is created from there in order to reintegrate those fragments. And we become fragmented, not just in our everyday life currently, but those fragments are also pooling from fragments in your multidimensionality, which are a part of the Akashic record, which is the holographic DNA of the earth, which is basically all your participation in the many cycles that you have experienced and are experiencing simultaneously. So in other words, you're what you may call past lives. I call them simultaneous lives. We tune into those and we also reintegrate fragments from those aspects. So beyond that, I also work with the star, what we call star seeds is in common language, but to me, they're just fragments on higher dimensional planes, which we have access to. So people can heal, reintegrate. When we reintegrate, we realize all that we're doing is like a candle. It's like we're turning it up. And it's like all of the parts of your candle now become aware. That's what healing is about. You become one. That's what it means. Instead of seeing yourself as this little thing, you see yourself as a whole. And that's essentially what this work is about. And it is very powerful work. It's definitely, it's about a 2-hour long session.
Yeah.
But most of the time, people have very long lasting results from something like this. And what was your other question? Can we go back to what we were? Okay, so to answer that question, in fact, I am from an understanding, looking at this perspective of evolution, that all of the humans that have come into the earth at this particular time have come in specifically for this kind of an event, this experience that we're all going through, because it's necessary. It's a part of evolution for all the souls right now. It's kind of like a moment where things were kind of ruffled from. Any time that we stay stagnant or comfortable, that's death. We're dying. We're basically dying. So what we want to do is wake up again and live. And this is what we're doing now. Now that we had a moment to shake up from that comfort zone, going back into the exploration of trying to understand what is truth, what is real, what is health, what is unity, what does it mean to co-create, and hopefully moving forward in the next couple of years, especially in 2024, is where we're going to begin to embody this collective unity. And so what we can be doing up until that point right now is to begin to really deprogram and to begin to understand what you are as this multidimensional being and learn how to navigate that, because it requires an egoless surrender. And this is something that's very necessary right now. And learning to trust your intuition, right? That's what's being tested right now, because you need to know what is in alignment with you and trust it.
Especially trust our own intuition. That's the hard one for most people, because you get an idea and it's wow, that sounds good, but boy oh boy, what happens if I fail?
Right. the doubt
And then you
comes
start
in.
thinking about that, and that draws it to you, and you forget about it. Once we have something, we got to focus on it, and whatever comes, we don't care about the rocks in the road. Focus on it, and it's a lot easier to get that destination without looking sideways.
Absolutely right. I agree completely. I think that doubt is actually, it's like a cancer to the soul. Literally, it eats away at the potential, and it's something that unfortunately we program very deeply in our children. And that's something that I would love to just quickly say, that as parents right now, do we indoctrinate our children with belief systems and program that feed into doubt? That's the thing. That's the destruction of mankind that we need to be careful with, individually and collectively. And so the most compassionate thing to do for yourself is to nurture yourselves in times of doubt. And remember that, whatever divine messages or intuitive messages come through, it's coming from a collective organism that is sustaining and supporting the whole organism, because you are one whole organism. You are the planet Earth, you are your body, you are the multiverse. And so listening to those messages is essential for the health of the whole. And that's actually what free will means. It means looking at the collective well-being, not just the individual selfish well-being. That's where we can get lost. So you're right on it about the doubt. It's so important right now.
Yeah. Another thing, that you have a documentary, I think there's, 12 successions to it or something, Extraordinary Deseeding. Where can they find that, and what's in it?
Sure. Yes, I was very blessed to be a part of that documentary by J3 Films, and they do have a new one out now called, I think, Revelations, Extraordinary Revelations. But the film that I was in was particularly about the hybridization program, just exploring the different facets of the hybridization program, and just going into what that's about. So it's very interesting. But yes, I've also been part of a couple other shows which dive into contact, which is also interesting, that you can check out. You can find it on my IMDb or my website. You can also find links to those. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Then they need to go to your website and mention that website again. I did it in the beginning, but
yes,
what can they
Geraldine.
reach you?
Yes, if you want to get a session with me, you can find it at GeraldineOrozco.com. And to join the support group, you can go to hybridmother.com.
And tell people also more about what are the different forms or modalities that you can help them gain insight into, so when they get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So DNA reprogramming is one of them. And I usually suggest people to start with that, because you deprogram important blockages that may inhibit your ability to go deeper. The next step would be a hypnotherapy. And I call it holographic hypnotherapy because I journey with you and I see everything that you see in your hypnotherapy. And as well as other information from your body. So what that helps me do is that you have to submit 22 questions for the session that you're interested in, 11 to 22, and we address those questions. It can be about anything that you want to discover. We dive deep into past simultaneous lives. We look into the holographic DNA. We go into the subconscious memory of this body, which is stored in the muscle memory of your system. And we begin to look at what is necessary. Where is there stagnant? Sometimes we have entities or fragmented aspects of ourselves that are stuck in our body that need to be expressed. And so that's also something that we address. So those are the two modalities that I primarily work one-on-one, is DNA reprogramming and hypnotherapy. And you can book for both of those sessions on my website. Yeah. I also have a lot of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to mention that I also have a lot of free videos and meditation training, advanced meditation practices that you can find on my YouTube channel if you would like as well.
That is a must. because meditation is usually the gate to higher consciousness.
That is it. There's no other. There's no other. Yes. And I do hope to help inspire as many people to find and to live a life of mindfulness. It's not just 1 hour or 10 minutes of your day. It's the entire day. It's as you are speaking, as you're doing, you are aware. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is also that I keep seeing in the chat room here that you talk like Elena Dunham. Are you familiar with her?
No, but I actually had an email from someone that said that she spoke at something, but I haven't met her. I don't know anything about her yet.
Oh, you guys need to connect because you are parallel in some of the way you think and what you not do so much. She is more of a thinker than a doer like you, but I tell you, you guys have a lot in common.
Great. I would love to. Hope I can get the chance. Yeah.
And now you are the co-director of OPUS. That's Organization of Paranormal Understanding and Support.
Yes, I'm on the director's board. And it's a collaboration of a wonderful group of researchers and experiencers, including Les Velez, Garrett Moore, and I know that Laurie McDonald as well, who's also featured in a couple shows that we've done together. She's incredible. She's also a hypnotherapist here in Sacramento, California. And it's an organization to provide support and education on ET contact as well. So, if, for example, you want to work one-on-one with someone in your state, you can also check there and find somebody. We have a list and a directory of support resources as well as a support group that you can join. So definitely check that out. Yeah. They also do really great researches. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You do what?
They research. They do wonderful research and surveys to collect data. Yeah.
I think this organization could become really busy after the next few months or so when disclosure happens.
Interesting.
People's going to have more questions. They're going to come to us and say, you know what, I called you an idiot before, but maybe you're not. What's the story? That we're going to have to be there for them because there's going to be a lot of confused people.
Yeah, I think that it went up tremendously over the past couple years. It's amazing that even mainstream media, Hollywood is very interested in talking about these topics, which I found very interesting. And I think that potentially it's an angle as well, because I think that the government, as they're setting up their office in the Pentagon for ET contact, that there's probably information that will be released further about that, and also technology that's going to be surfacing pretty soon.
Yeah.
That has probably been used for a very long time, as we know. It's interesting because a lot of experiencers that have already had access to some of this information for years now, all this stuff is now coming out in the mainstream. So that's very interesting. And I've seen a pickup. More people are joining the support group. More people are asking questions. People that you would never even think would talk about ET contact. There are hundreds and thousands of people that are having contact. And it's just a matter of education. And it's a matter of understanding our multidimensionality. That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
We know this is coming very soon because we also have information to the fact that NASA has hired several Christian ministers, and they told them work quickly. They want to figure out how can we explain the alien presence when it becomes known to the Christian community, because they think everything is demons. So now they got to find a way to get around that so that they can accept it, so they can still probably keep a little bit of control, I suppose. But we know they're on the track. Something is coming, and it's not years anymore, it's months now.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time, and for all those listeners that are contactees and experiencers, just know that, once this stuff comes out, you trusted yourself, you know that what you experienced is real to you. And that's what matters, because the interesting thing, this is a whole other part that I talk about, is why people are remembering their ET contact a lot more now. And it has a lot to do with your blood type. It has to do with your lineages that you're a part of. But the fact that we say the veil is thinning, it really has been thinning now for about 15 years. Things have been getting a lot thinner, in that people are remembering their contact. They're becoming more conscious. And this is a part of that cyclic cycle of evolution that we're awakening more to. The future of this is a very aware and open conversation about interdimensionality. You know, we are aware of that. The information is on our genetic information, and it also will take us and categorize humans in certain sections in our society in the future. You know, this is, your DNA is the next step. This is what it's, the currency of the past, the present, and the future is what DNA is, and it will be the marker of identifying you going forward. This is just a matter of time. I mean, we see what they're doing in China to have that social rating system. This is something that is going to be implemented globally. And this is going to take some time. But in order to move away from that, we have to understand that we need to go more towards nature, inner connection, as opposed to outer codependence of technology, which is putting us to sleep. And we are assisting in creating an intelligence that is going to be controlling everything. And so that's a problem, right? So this is something that we need to be aware of and notice where our dollars are being invested. Where's our money going? What are we doing with our time? What are we watching? What are we looking at? You know, are we on Instagram? Are we on Facebook all the time? Are we consuming a lot of things? Remember that you're participating to families and lineages of systems of control that are more parasitic as opposed to creative. And so those are the kind of awarenesses that we need to have in the next couple months as all of this develops, is beginning to create sovereignty at some point, you know, where we are managing our organism and our home, our well-being, and our livelihood.
Oh, this has been wonderful. I'm so glad you came, and we definitely, I'm going to ask you to come back when you get a little closer for your book. Let's do this again. There's so much more to talk about.
I would love to. Thank you so much, Augie, for having me.
And here is my favorite question. I'm going to ask it. If you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
I would say that if you see yourself more as a net plane, as opposed to the physical body with an identity and a personality, you are moving and navigating through vibrational frequency. So the idea of getting stuck on suffering or emotion or concepts of helplessness is a very tiny moment of experience of a collective organism. So if you try to look at things like this, it's almost like this incredible liberation of a limitation that you're imposing on yourself with your own thoughts. And you enter into a level of mastery and co-creation that will take you to anything that you've ever imagined. So this is something that maybe I can drop in and say. Yes.
We should think on a higher level of consciousness all the time.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Very
wonderful. Good. Thank you very much for being with us. And we will be back next week with Nori also. And then we will, until then, make sure you be good to each other.